Hi, I'm Jan Kolazar, and I am here to talk to you about Math Bowl and how to put together a Math Bowl team for competition. The Math Bowl competition started through the Indiana Association of School Principals after such success with the Spell Bowl competition. Math Bowl is a competition set up for 4th through 6th graders. Depending upon your elementary size, it is an elementary competition, and it is for teams anywhere from 4 members to up to 20 members. It was started in order to encourage students to become more involved in math. You only need 4 students to participate on the Math Bowl team. The competition is set up so that you have 4 different rounds, and each round consists of 7 problems. The teams could be a squad of teams so that you have students of up to 3 at a time competing. They go to a table where there are 3 students working on one problem. They are multiple choice problems. So they need to be, I would say they need to be good readers, but not necessarily good detailed math people. Anyway, going back to, you need to have at least 4 members because you have to have at least one person competing. You may have up to 5 people on a squad, and then for each round, because there is substitution allowed. You go through the problems. Each problem is timed, either 30, 45, or 60-second problems. When the kids go up to a table, they are allowed to discuss the problem after the MC says begin. The problem is read. It's shown on a PowerPoint presentation. The problem is read. The MC says begin. The students then participate in solving the problem, and then they have to mark the answer A, B, C, or D. And there is a 5-second timer that will warn them of when the time is almost up. When the kids go up to the table to participate, they can do no talking until the MC says begin. Then the answers must be marked by the time the bell rings. There is a proctor sitting next to the team members, and that proctor then immediately grades the problem or grades the answer, and if the children get the correct answer, then of course the team gets a point. My team, or my own squads, are set up, and I get a group of 16. You are allowed to have anywhere from 4 to 20 students on the team. The 4 is that you must have at least 1 child participating in each round, but you don't have to have the 3 kids at the table at the same time. After question number 4, you can substitute out 1 or 2 students. Each squad will have a captain, and the captain must remain at the table the whole time, but the other 2 can be substituted out. It's a great way to get the younger students involved in that they can, we call them flip in and flip out. So if you have 3 students at the table and you substitute 2 kids after the 4th question, then you get more people participating. The 7th question, when in the scoring process, which gets very involved, and that can be read through the coach's handbook or going through the coach's conference in the fall, but in the coach's, then the 7th question is one of the tiebreaker questions. And you want to make sure, you're trying to make sure you get the 7th question correct. And in doing that, that it helps the team's overall score. So my theory is that you want the strongest squad possible at the 7th question, so for questions 5, 6, and 7. So if I have several 4th graders involved, I may have them start each round, and then after the 4th question, I will substitute out my 4th graders and put in some 6th graders. Not that the 6th grade's necessarily the better math student, they've just had 2 more years of experience with math. There is a proctor sitting with each squad team, and they will then grade each problem at the end of they will grade the problem at the end of the round, and then the highest score that you can get in Math Bowl then would be a score of 28. Okay, in putting together a Math Bowl team, you need to consider your timing as far as when you can practice. It needs to be during non-academic time, so either before school, after school, or lunchtime format. And it needs to be set up so that you can get as many students participating as you feel comfortable with working. I have a team of 16 usually because of illnesses and absences perhaps. As far as choosing the team, I use a qualifying test. It's the same test for any 4th through 6th grader. I do not time the qualifying test. It's usually anywhere from 20 to 25 problems, and I get those problems from past competition questions, which are available from the IASP office, depending upon what year the standards that are being met. If you are participating in this, then I'm going to assume that you have access to the coach's handbook, and in the coach's handbook then you can see the standards that are being met for that particular year. Not that all of them couldn't be addressed, but there are certain standards that are being focused on. This year happens to be a probability year. Next year may be a geometry and measurement year. So check in the coach's handbook for the actual standards that are being addressed. The kids then are chosen. We have practices. My practices are during the lunch hour because that's the only time I can get all the kids together. That way they don't miss recess either. It's actually their lunch half hour. So we have what we call a working lunch. The kids come to me and I actually run my practices like a competition, in that the kids come in and we work in squads, and there is a format or a form that I have the kids use in order to work their problems. We set it up just with the timers as far as 30 seconds, 45 or 60 seconds, and then they do have the warning times. I also disqualify any of my practice teams if they talk before I say the word begin, because they've got to learn that they are not to be talking at all with each other. They can start the problem and they can work it individually, but they can't talk amongst themselves until the MC says begin. The kids then go through a practice set of 7 problems, and then that at the end of the 7 questions, we have declare ourselves a winner, and we talk about the problems that we missed or the ones that we got right. We talk about multiple ways to solve the problems. We also turn the problems around. Perhaps if it was worded in a different direction, it would be like working backwards on a problem. So the practices then are run, you can do quite a few practices in the 30 minutes. We can run through 2 actual rounds. I meet with the kids twice a week. If you can meet with the kids before school or after school, that's fine too. So we've got a competition of 7 rounds. The kids go up in groups of 3. I work with a team of 16 because at the substitution time, I always want to have a backup person in case of illness on the actual competition date. Then I have the kids that are used to working together. For my own practices, I had let the kids draw popsicle sticks. They are colored. I work with 16 kids, so I have 15 of them come in, they draw sticks, and then we have a wild card stick, and that person gets to choose whichever squad they wish to work with that day. In that, we'll do that and draw different sticks. I see how the different kids work together, and we will do that through February or maybe mid-January or early February, and then I pull together the actual squads that will be working together, and we work as squad 1, squad 2, 3, and 4, and then they start working in the flipping out and the flipping in activities so that they're used to working with each other, how to communicate with each other. And after the end of question 4, I will have the one person exit and another person come onto the squad. Again, you want your strongest team at the table at the very end for questions 5, 6, and 7. And that's how you can get the little ones involved in that. They think it's pretty special that they get to do more problems than the 6th grade, but the 6th grade, even though they only get to do 3 problems, they're pretty excited because they know that it's an important 3 questions that they want to get right. The important thing is to make sure you have an answer on the paper, that the kids get an answer on the paper. We've had one team that has come up with a scribble method, which if they don't have any idea what the answer is, they will scribble out an answer and they'll take a vote on which letter the kids see, and that's what they will circle, and that works a lot of the time. When creating a team and developing the qualifying test, I mentioned about using past questions from past competitions. And that's fine, and to do that, it's easy to do because the IASP office will give you those past competition questions. Make sure that you are focusing on the current standards that are being emphasized as you're putting together that qualifying test. Also, and you don't have to use a qualifying test. That's whatever you choose to do in order to get your team. I've been very fortunate that I've usually had anywhere from 50 to 75 students try out for that competition, and oftentimes it's a 4th grade student. I've had an incident where I had a 4th grade student that failed I-STEP actually as a 3rd grader, but they passed the qualifying test. And when I was questioned by the 4th grade teachers, they said, Jan, you know, this child failed I-STEP, but I said, number one, she may be a good guesser, or number two, it gives her an hour of remediation every week during the Math Bowl practices. A good Math Bowl competitor may not necessarily be your strongest math student. A very strong math student oftentimes wants to practice and get it right. Remember, at all times, you have a 30 to 60 second window that you must get an answer on the paper. Some of my best Math Bowl competitors have been kids that have, they know the answer. They can't do the work. They don't know how they know the answer. They just know that this is the answer, and they've got a good math mind, but they're not necessarily wanting to be able to put it on paper. All the problems are multiple choice. They're like major story problems, so there are a lot of story problems. It's not just a computation competition. And so you've got some good problems will come out of the competition, but they will be like story problems. So make sure you have those kind of problems on the qualifying test, or that you've got good readers so that you know what that they are aware of what the competition will be. Okay, one of the things that I've really appreciated as far as being a Math Bowl coach is that I have been able to see some students in different lights. A lot of times I will have at least 1 or 2 members of the Math Bowl team, like the little girl that had failed I-STEP that became a team member. Another one I've had a former Math Bowl student that as an adult ended up in jail and everything, but he was talking to, after he got out of jail, he was talking to one of my teaching partners and said one of the highlights of his life was to be on the Math Bowl team in the elementary. So you don't know who you're going to touch or how it's going to, what ramifications the Math Bowl competition will be on people, but you also know that they have been at one point a part of a team, and that team, I try to stress very greatly that you're not up there as an individual, you are up there as a squad of 3, and that there will be no finger pointing. I had at one point this one little boy that pointed to his friend like, it's your fault that we didn't get that one right. I will not accept that from any of my team members. We are a team. We go up and out as a team, and that has been a very strong focus of mine and in putting together a Math Bowl competition team. In looking over the coach's handbook, make sure that you pay attention to the standards that are being emphasized. Make sure you follow the deadlines that are the entry form. If you're entered into the competition, then you already done that, but there will be dates when you must submit the team roster. And remember, the team roster can have no more than 20 students. You may have as many students as you wish on the team, but the roster can only hold 20. They will be the ones that will be the actual math spellers or math competitors. The other dates, you will be in contact by a host site. They will contact you, and you will need to make sure that you get all the other forms for traveling to, depending upon your school corporation. That if you have to arrange for transportation for your team, make sure you do that in a timely enough manner too. Okay, for those of you that are attending the coaches conference in September, everything that you really need as far as practice materials is included on that CD that comes to you from the central office. There are some past competition questions. There are some past practice questions too that are available through that. And that also has the timeline information. The coach's handbook can be downloaded from that disk also. And that is a very valuable tool for steps in putting together a good team. The other tool that can be used is a calculator. There are some suggestions for different types of calculators that could be used. There are specifically rules against graphing calculators and anything that would be able to print off or any major memory. Calculators are encouraged to have. It's been my experience that most of the problems can be solved without a calculator, that the best tool, of course, would be a pencil, and then use that with the paper, and that will get the kids as far as anything will. Just being able to read, being able to think clearly under pressure, and that's the hard thing for the students. But a calculator, in that information on the disk, that will give you specific calculator specifications that can be used during the competition. Okay, it has been my experience that Math Bowl is a very relaxed atmosphere in order to learn more math skills and to practice with students that maybe I have in class, maybe I will have in class in the future. I was one of the chartered teachers to participate in the Math Bowl competition. We started it a number of years ago, and I don't know exactly how many, but it is a fun way to encourage math participation for 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And my greatest challenge to the kids is always to go back to their math classes, be the best math student that they can be for that year, and then that will make them a stronger competitor for me. It's just a little more relaxed atmosphere to meet during lunch. I score sheets with peach juice on it and pizza sauce on it, but it's just a fun way to get the kids together and play around with math.